All right. Boom. Another Friday night. Here we are again. Look at these faces. And I don't know. I'm I'm not vain. I'm not vain, but I feel like there's a certain amount of attractiveness. You're vain. Yeah. Okay, we can admit it. I would say, you're vain. That's awesome, because what I think people tune in for is to look at this stuff right here. And if Sean was here, he'd agree with me 100%. Miss you, Sean. We'll see you. We'll see you next week.
I will be watching next week.
That's true, because everybody, if you don't know, Mike has graciously jumped in and been co-host of the show since Sean had to take a hiatus, and this is his last show with us. And I have to say, Mike, personally, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The show is a whole lot more fun with two hosts. It really is, and you jumping on and saving the day and helping us out. I know both Sean and I really appreciate it. So I'm going to miss you, man. I'm going to miss you.
Yeah, well, I won't miss you because I'll be watching you every week.
That is true. Yeah. So I'll miss you, but you won't miss me. I like it. So, and being that it's your last show, do you have any kind of intro for yourself that you want to do? This is the last chance, man. Let's do it.
Gosh, I got
not to put you on the spot or anything else.
Buy my book. That's my intro. U.S. Assassin Second Chance Campaign on Indiegogo. Go get it. There's only 300 copies. There's only like 227 left, I think. Go get it. Drawn by me, colored by Andrew Dahlhaus, written by Mark Polton, who has Graveyard Shift 3 that just came out and just went in like a day to $100,000. We're only at $3,000, guys. We can get this a lot higher, and then Volume 2 is already done. So as soon as this is done, we're going right into Volume 2. So it's done. It's ready. I'm already working on Volume 3, guys. So
there you go.
All right.
There you go.
That's my spiel.
All right. And I'm the very attractive, the very sexy, the very distinguished, a staunch defender of Rob Liefeld and a lover of everything 90s. Joseph Michael Sonntag, or Joe M. Sonntag if you prefer, or as the Pope likes to call me, JMS. Welcome to the Ott and Stuff Show. Shout out to Sean. We miss you, brother. We love you. We got a hell of a fun show tonight. Episode 16. Can you believe it? We've done 16 of these so far. Man, time is just flying. It's awesome.
The show is now able to legally drive.
That is true. That's very, very true. Well, we got I'm not going to waste any more time because our guest is waiting patiently backstage here. So we're going to bring on the creator behind Guapo Comics, Mr. Cesar himself. What's up, brother? How you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Doing really good.
You're looking good. Both of you guys looking good. Looking fresh. Looking ready. You guys are ready. All right. El Guapo in the house. You know.
Yeah, look
All right, man.
So
what are we doing here? Let's get this going, man. Let's get the show on the road. I want to keep people.
This show is all about you tonight. So
it is very all about you. And like I was saying, we always like to start here and talk about the origin stories because we're all getting to know each other. People are tuning in and getting to know you, if they haven't known you already. So why don't you drop a little bit of knowledge on everybody and tell us how you got into the business, your love, what drew you into comics in the first place, and where you are right now.
Well, I mean, listen, like everyone that has worked in comics, growing up, we just loved them, man. I mean, I didn't, actually discover comics until I was maybe about 12, 13 years old. I came from a rough background, single mother, 4 kids, living in pretty much poverty. So you end up, moving around a lot, and I wasn't really interested in too many things. I liked movies, and I liked hanging out. I liked karate and stuff like that. I always thought I was going to be Bruce Lee. And
who didn't? I'm telling you.
Right?
Hey, Reggie Blanco, how's it doing? How's it going?
And so when I was 12 years old, we moved into these projects, and there was this kid there named Willie. And I would see him like out from my window, and like he'd be jumping around and like doing like weird things like that, right? It was like, what the heck is that kid doing, man? He's so freaking weird, So after about a week of watching them out the window, I'm like, I gotta go out there and see what the heck all this is about. So I go out there and I kind of like, hey, how you doing? You know, because he just like stops and looks at me, you know, and I'm like, oh no, you know, my name is Cesar. I live right in that house right there. You know, I just been kind of watching what you're doing. You're doing like and like grunting and stuff. You know, what's that all about? And he just looked at me. He goes, oh, you don't know? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, hold on a second. And the kid just like, boom, he like bolts, he disappears and runs into his house. I'm like standing there like, what the heck is going on? What, I scare him off or something? Next thing I know, he comes out with like this stack of books in a box. And he's like, look, this is what this is. And he starts pulling out all these Hulk comic books. And I'd never seen anything like that. I was like, what the heck? He goes, yeah. So he starts telling me the story of Bruce Banner and how he got gamma radiation, became super strong, and that's what he does. So, man, I tell you, once he was like his energy for those stories and the comics, man, I was bitten like by the bug right then on that spot, man. It was like all I wanted to do was read comics and you know, we would play, you know, superheroes in the backyard and stuff like that. I would always be Thor because he wanted to be, you know, a freaking Hulk, you know. So we'd have like these epic battles, you know. But you know, and then one thing leads to another. And obviously, you know, I'm like, wow, that's cool, you know. So I started copying the pictures and stuff like that, you know, and just kind of doing that. And you know, go to high school and, you know, kind of left the comic stuff behind, you know, but I always drew, you know. Then got out of high school, didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, and joined the Marine Corps. And I got to do my art in there, you know, like the Marines, you know, the few, the strong. But if you can draw or paint or anything like that, man, they'll put you to work. So I was making like a platoon banner, and all
Nice.
that, you know, so that was pretty cool. So, you know, I got out of the service and, you know, did drawing through all of that. And shortly after I got out, which was 1987, met my wife. We got married in 88. A couple years later, I hooked up with this guy at this comic shop, and he was telling me, hey, you know, I like to draw too. I was like, really? I like to draw. So we would get together and we draw superheroes and make our own creations and stuff like that. And through that process, I ended up meeting this guy named CJ Bunn, who was starting a like comic book, you know, publishing company. And he did like underground comics, you know, and he had this one character called Captain Jolting, and it was kind of like a crypt keeper kind of character. And he's like, yeah, you know, I got these stories like an anthology. You do this story, and that's, you know, we'll just kind of like have this character. He introduces them and everything like that. You know, the guy was like a tattoo artist, so he would like write, and it would have like these really, you know, rough tattoo looking style and stuff like that, you know, and then we would sell them like at head shops and stuff like that, you know. And you know, so like I got a name in the underground comic scene, you know, of a guy that could sling ink okay, and it kind of drew okay and stuff like that, you know. So you know, started getting into that. And then I you know, I wanted to get better at my art, and I hooked up with this guy named Steve Warren, and he had this illustration studio. Yeah, Semper Fi, MD.
Hoorah.
And you know, he had a fantasy illustration studio. He used to do a lot of these you know, good girl art, and the guy was like freaking brilliant artist, you know. So it was me and a few other guys, and we produced some things, and we did like a lot of, you know, softcore pinups and stuff like that. You know? But you know, it was like all stuff that, you know, just kind of helped you to learn, you know, how to draw, you know, and you know, how to, you know, use the tools and stuff like that. And you know, after that, you know, I just kind of like, well, you know, maybe I should like start doing more comics and stuff like that. So, I started working and trying to find work here and there, and actually got hooked up with this company called Dark Moon Productions, and I was illustrating this book called The Innovators with writer Tom Snigoski. He's written like Swords of Sharpay, and he's like a novelist now. I mean, he writes books. I think for like The Fallen, that thing with the angels and the demons and stuff like that. Yeah. So I illustrated a couple of issues of his story, Then this is in the 90s, right? So the company didn't last because it was mismanaged, Like like the company had a lot of money, all right, and it was like they just blew it like on stupid crap, And I was like, dude, like there's so much potential here, But I will say this: my claim to fame is out of that company. I was like one of the few people that made sure they got paid, So, but yeah, that's what it was in the 90s, man. Companies would pop up here and there, You do the work, maybe you get paid, maybe you wouldn't,
Right.
But it was like it was a dime a dozen. And after that, kind of went down. I ended up doing. I illustrated one comic series. I inked 2 others. I did color separations on another one. So like I learned how to do all this stuff. And that was back in the day when computer colorists are not like what they are now. I mean,
Right.
They ended up, but the books look good. I actually wish I had some on me, but I don't. So then just kind of life got a little bit crazy for me. My wife and I started having kids and stuff like that. So I kind of had to put the comics things on the back burner for a little while, But it was I always drew, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't just doing comics, So like I got involved in a church, and I would do like these huge murals for them. Like every year they had this big project, and I would do these crazy murals and stuff like that, which
Nice.
Sometimes got me in a lot of trouble because they weren't like the most churchy things, But I got to do that. I would do like spot illustrations and things like that for textbooks and things of that vein. And and it was like then the itch to tell stories kind of started kicking again, because there's people that like to draw, and they're like doing these illustrations, and they're I think we were talking a little bit on the pregame show that we were there's guys like Rob Willis. I mean, that guy will like that pit piece that he just did,
Oh, beautiful.
I would not do that. Okay.
Right.
I could draw a nice illustration, it would look good. Okay.
Jojo.
What's up, Jojo?
But I could never do it to that level. But
No,
I like to tell stories, okay, and so I enjoy doing that. So I got involved in that, and so I've drawn hundreds of like pages of comics. I mean, like here's I managed to pull a stack of maybe about a quarter
Oh, woo.
of comic pages that I've done.
That's
and
awesome.
and then I've been doing this for 25 years. So here's like a stack
Nice.
of books that I've worked on. So it's just it's a grind. You don't do that unless you enjoy doing it. I look at some of the stuff, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I actually do that. Oh, and then some of them I was like, it wasn't too bad, for where I was at the time. But yeah, so I did that. I got an opportunity to draw a vampire and werewolf book. I mean, I always liked doing horror. I dug doing that. Horror is like that's like in me, but it's not like
Right.
Texas Chainsaw Murder kind of horror, which I can do. But
Right.
I like the traditional horror. I'm like in the Bernie Wrightson vein of horror, which is like, what's scarier, a guy with a bloody machete and holding a bloody head, or the guy in a pinstripe suit waiting for the bus with a blood stain on his shoe,
Right.
So that sort of thing. So like that's what I gravitate to, as far as horror, because the world is a crazy place, and it's there's crazy stuff in front of your face, but you just can't see it because it's masked. All right, there's some messed up people out there, and when you dig and you see what's there, you start to find out, man, people are freaking reprobates, man.
100%. 100%.
But yeah, so I did the Full Moon Craze, and then I had the opportunity to then work on another horror title. Once I was done with this, I got to work on Ripper Man. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
I did like the first few pages of the book this artist did, but he didn't finish it. So I got called in. It's like, hey man, can you Mariana Rivera this? So I finished the rest of the book, and got that done. Here's a page from that. I had a lot of fun with this because I felt like I really got to cut loose. Like I said, I'm into this stuff. I really do like drawing it.
That looks great, dude.
And then from that I got a chance to work on this biography of Sonia Sotomayor,
really,
which was pretty awesome because as a Puerto Rican man, to know that the first Hispanic justice on the Supreme Court was her. I mean, I agree with everything she says politically, but as a fellow Puerto Rican, it was pretty awesome to work on it. And a copy of this is actually in the Supreme Court files.
Really,
yeah. So there is a copy of this there to kind of honor. Yeah, I've actually sold quite a few pages from that book that people were like, oh man, and so they want to get in that. Then when I was done with that project, I kind of put a notice out there online, on Facebook, like, hey, I'm done with all the current projects that I have. If there's any writers out there that want to, hook up and just shoot me your ideas, and we'll take a look and see if we can work together. And so this guy Tyler James, who is the publisher of Comics Tribe, we had actually met at a comic convention in Connecticut, and we kind of hit it off pretty good. And he responds back and says, man, I got these 3 stories I want to tell, and I'm looking for someone to collaborate with. And I was like, yeah man, sure, yeah, send me the story. So he had one was like a science fiction story, and that was kind of cool, but it was like a lot of mech and stuff like that, and I'm not super comfortable with working with mech stuff. And then the other one was like fantasy, but one of the things I always wanted to do is I always wanted to draw a team book, and so a superhero team book. So he had a story, and basically the story was Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians meets the Justice League, Nice. And so that book was called The Red 10, and what was nice about it is that it was a superhero story, and but it had like a horror-ish kind of twist to it. So whenever we would pitch a story, we would say this story is about how we would kill off the Justice League if DC Comics were crazy enough to let us, So
right.
Here's some of the single floppies from that, and all these covers were that was a little too bright. You are seeing that correct. There are 3 boobs.
Yep, there you go.
Right there. So we had like a lot of different cover artists working on here. Here's
nice.
a cover I did, But I mean, like I said, there's a lot of comics. So so we did that, and then we actually then collected a couple of we did our first Kickstarter. The first crowdfunding campaign I ever did was the Red 10 trade paperback. I think we made like $13,000 or something like this on the campaign for Kickstarter. Nice. For a small publisher, it was pretty good.
I was gonna say
yeah. And then we finished it off just this past year with the full series. So you can get the full volume, both halves, all 10 books in here. And what's neat about the book, I wanted to do a team book, you know, but when you're drawing a lot of characters, man, there's a lot of nuance to that. You know, there's constantly needs to be going stuff on, and stuff needs to be going on in the background. You know, you can't just have figures standing like this. You know,
Right.
So that was a challenge. But in every single one of the issues, deep dark secret is revealed about one of the characters, and then one by one they're being put to death. So there's like this race against time to figuring out who's killing all the heroes. You know. And then the reveal on the end is like, holy crap, you know, it was pretty good. So I got done with that, and I just kind of like was kind of floating around, and you know, still wanted to do comics, wasn't sure what I want to do, and you know, started doing my own stuff and stuff like that. And I said, well, you know, I mean, I've got ideas, you know, I have stories that I probably would like to tell,
Right.
You know, and so the first book that I did was with this guy Mark Stanislawski. That, you know, funny enough, I met him through a job, and it was about a couple of Marines. It's called Gods and Soldiers.
Oh, neat.
So we put out this single issue here. All right, and this is a story about two former Marines that served in Afghanistan, and you know, one of them is dealing with PTSD, and the other one is, you know, dealing with, you know, his ex-wife. You know, he's paying alimony, and she's got, you know, she loves all the good stuff, so he's struggling with his bills and stuff like that. So, you know, he's gotten hooked up with an organization to make some side money, and he draws his buddy in, you know, and they end up going to a bar in Tijuana to kind of blow off some steam for the weekend. But ultimately what happens is that his friend actually is recruiting him to stop a human trafficking ring in Tijuana. But when they get there, they find that it's more than that. And so like there's like Aztec and Mayan gods involved, and like dimensions and stuff like that, which we're going to go into now. This particular issue, I'm actually remastering. I went back, and there was a few things that, you know, there was a lot that I liked about it, but then I said, you know, there's some things that I think we can tighten up, do a little bit better. So, you know, I went back to the writer, and he was really cool, and he, you know, made some adjustments based on some suggestions and stuff like that. He came back with like a much tighter story, and it's like, yeah. So I'm currently drawing that one right now.
Nice.
I think I have some of the art for that. Let's give me a minute.
Yeah, let's see it. Well, that's a much bigger room than I thought it was. Like,
it's yeah. You know, I told my wife, it's like when we get our dream home, I want to make sure I have a space where I can actually, you know, because my studio kept getting smaller and smaller with every kid that we had.
yeah. Yep.
So these are some of the pages for that. So I don't know if you can.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Nice.
Yeah, I did. I posted that on
nice.
Twitter. You know, and then, you know, but this is what I'm talking about, like mundane scenes. You know, and just telling story to try to like evoke emotion and stuff like that. But you know, like on this one, I've got like 8 pages done on it. So that's Gods and Soldiers. And then another story concept that I had was I always liked James Bond, spy stuff, martial arts stuff. I really dug that. You know, I was a big fan of Enter the Dragon, you know, and that sort of thing. And so I liked that, and I said, well, I want to create a story where there's going to be martial arts and spy action, you know, going on. And I wanted to be, you know, like a warring faction, but people come together. And so I created Gin and Tonic. What was the name of the story? So it's Sammy Gin and Darya Tanokova. She's a Russian. So Sammy Gin is an assassin, but he is like the ultimate of the humanity through Eastern mysticism. You know, so he's like got all the chi stuff and all that stuff rolling. He's like a freaking badass martial artist and stuff like that. You know, he's doing that stuff. And then Daria is like the best of humanity that can be created by science. You know, so she's working for the Russians, and you know, chips are being played, and you know, cards are being exchanged and stuff like that to bring these two together. And there comes a moment where they actually meet because they're hired for the same kill.
Nice.
And then when they get there, they have to make a decision, and that decision is going to basically carry the story from that point forward. And there's, you know, a group that purposely brought them together that are trying to kind of take down the one world global government that's kind of running things, you know. So that's Gin and Tonic. But I didn't put any of those stories out first. The first story I put out was Chango, which I finally have the book in my hand. All right, Joe. I sent Joe a copy of a PDF so he could kind of like review it, take a look at it. And so this story is near and dear to my heart. You know, it's about a mom and her son and their relationship. You know, and it kind of reminds me of my relationship with me and my own mother. You know, just very vibrant and everything like that. And you know, so they have this adventure where, you know, they start off great, and then something happens. You know, the father dies, and so the mom sees that her son is, you know, slowly becoming more and more depressed and distant. You know, she thinks she's doing something right, but, you know, she loves her son and she wants to do everything she can to help him and save him, but she feels that, you know, like there's nothing she can do. You know, she feels trapped. She wants to just get through to his thick head, you know, like our own moms, you know. But the reality is that, you know, when he's a kid, something happens where he's able to start seeing demons, and not just demons, but the demons that oppress people, you know, through anger and conceit and, you know, alcoholism and hatred and, you know, all these kind of inner demons that we fight with. And so he can see them and he can hear everything that the demons are telling other people, you know, that no one's can hear. So can you imagine being, you know, 7 years old and hearing all these voices all the time? And it's bad enough that you're hearing voices in your own head, but you're hearing the voices in other people's head at the same time. So, you know, it's difficult for him, and obviously he doesn't want to tell his mom because she'll think he's crazy and put him away, you know, or something. And so this is the first arc, and it takes him through the journey of him trying to, you know, be rid of this, you know, this demonic entity that is besetting him, but things don't go according to plan. And so that's what this covers. And so you know, that's the one that I wanted to put out first. Was it the best? I don't know, but you know, all I know is that people that have read it do like it. I brought in Ben Goldsmith on this, and Ben's a great writer. He's written, you know, Seance Room and RV6 or RV9 is another. It's a sci-fi, but the guy's like really talented writer. And so I'm really happy to have him on board with him. And then let me just go back to the Gin and Tonic. I was able to secure the writing skills of an awesome pulp fiction writer. I sent him. I had done some work for him before, illustrated a couple stories for him, and done some spot illustrations. And I sent him the treatment that I wrote up. And hey, there's Bob.
What up, comic book Bob?
And he read it and he came back to me. He goes, Cesar, I absolutely love this, man. What a great concept. I'm like, for real? I mean, so you want to write this? He goes, man, I definitely want to write this, you know? So the guy comes back, man, and like 2 weeks later, he's got 4 issues of this thing done. I mean, it's an amazing story with like so many layers, you know, and I'm currently drawing the first 10 pages of that. Actually, I just finished the first 10 pages of that, And I'll be going back to that pretty soon and work on the next batch of pages. But yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to, get my name out there, let people know about El Guapo Comics. It's kind of tough, because there's a lot of loud voices out there, and they're kind of like sucking in. But you just got to keep doing it. I've been doing this for 25 years, and you don't stick around still doing comics if you're not willing to get in the trenches and kind of like dig in and dig in for a fight, and that sort of thing. So, anyway, that's my long-winded origin.
No, that's awesome, man. You've had that's really cool. I mean, to produce that much stuff on the indie level, I think is amazing, because I mean, you got guys like me that I at best put out a 12-page ash can. That's all I've ever done that actually put it out, because I always allowed myself to get stumped and stopped and sidetracked, and I never finished projects. I never finished what I started because just one thing, led to another. So to have that determination for 25 years to just put out stories is great. And like you said, you're a storyteller, and you obviously have shit tons of ideas. And just the Chongo book that you sent me that I read, I really liked it. I mean, you told the story well. I loved the concept about the demons, the inner demons and all that stuff, and the kid seeing them and whatnot. I liked how you set the book up. I liked how it went from present to past to present, and you really kind of brought everything together. I love that kind of style of storytelling. It's kind of similar to the kind of stuff that I think about sometimes when you're trying to lay out, without having to do an in-depth origin story, but you really want to still, get into the meat and potatoes of the story. Which sucks. I went to the Kickstarter page for that, and I didn't realize it was closed, because I was like, oh man, this is such a badass book. I'm gonna go buy it. I appreciate you sending me the PDF. That was awesome. I was gonna go buy it, and then realized, or maybe it was Indiegogo, whatever site it was, and it was a closed campaign. So I was a little disappointed at that. So hopefully you're gonna have a second chance campaign sometime when you have issue 2 come out, because I would definitely like to buy a physical copy of that.
We're more than likely doing that, that double bundle, type thing. You can catch up with the first book, second book type of thing. We'll definitely have that tier.
Good.
So well, thanks. I mean, I appreciate it. That means a lot, and it's one of these things where, when you're a creator and you're putting out your own stuff, you can sell it, you can explain it, people will support it, but none of that means anything until they actually have it in their hand. They're flipping through the pages, they're reading the story, they're checking out the art, and they're getting engrossed in it, And I think one of the things that, like spoke to me and made me feel real good was when you said, I sat down to read it and I got to the end, and I was like, and you were like, oh, wow, okay, that was quick. So to me, that means that you bought into what me and Ben were trying to present, which is, this is the story, man. This is like happening right in front of you, and you just were able to, like you said, you got to the end like, oh, damn, all right, that's over. Okay. So, that's a good feeling, as a creator. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, there's pressure, it's like, man, you better finish this well, or, you don't want to be that guy that, finishes the story and it's like,
Well, it's funny because when you sent me that PDF, I was like, all right, I want to read this before, we have the show with you, because I'd like to know a little bit about your work and everything. And when I opened up the PDF, and I saw that the overall thing was like 50 some odd pages, I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm never going to be able to read this. But when I actually sat down and started into it, it was what I appreciate as a comic book reader. It wasn't bogged down with a lot of script. You had what you needed to know to progress the story and to make it compelling, but it still allowed me to turn the page. And when I'm turning the page, it allows me more time to actually look at the art, which is what I like comic books for, is the art. So it was I thought very, very well put together. It was reader friendly. That is the best way I could say it. It's reader friendly. And before I knew it, I was at the end of the book, and I was like, wow, I read that within, I don't know, maybe like 20 minutes. It was crazy. I was like, that's awesome. I like how it ended. I'm looking forward to issue 2, and I definitely would be buying issue 1 if and when you guys do the supplemental pack to get the first book, because just you holding up that floppy that you had, I think it looks awesome, and I'd like to have that in my hands, because seeing the PDF is one thing, but actually seeing you with that floppy and you opened it up and I got a chance to actually see the pages together, I was just like, yeah, I definitely want that. I want to read it again as a physical copy. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely be back with that next time.
A great story. I definitely going to be diving into a lot of your work here, because I just you describing it and how personal it is, like talking about the son and the mother, and I'm a mom's boy, always have been, so that pulls on my heartstrings, and I love like what Joe was saying, how he was able to go through it. That means that your storytelling is on point. You've done this for 25 years, so it should be. But I mean, from what I'm hearing, I haven't actually read any of the stuff, but I will. I'm excited and looking forward to it, because it's all your concepts are stuff that I haven't heard of before.
Yeah, it's good.
So
Cool.
it's
Definitely.
it definitely has me intrigued.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot. And I try to put myself. Do you mind if I answer this question for MD?
Yeah. Yep. That's why I left it up there for you.
All right. So MD, yeah. So did the Marine discipline and/or mentality help you with your art? If so, how'd you apply it? Listen, I'll be completely honest with you. If I don't know what I would be, I might be a hot mess if it wasn't for the Marine Corps. I'll be serious, man. I think the Marine Corps saved my life. Because when I was coming up without that, like, I love my mom. I love my mom, and I would do anything for her, man. But I used to just get into something, and it was like, like, man, I mean, I just wasn't focused, like, I didn't understand, like, discipline and stuff like, there's a lot to be said for, having a dad around, kind of help to, set you straight. Like, my mom did the best she could, but she was trying to raise 4 kids and work. Okay. So it's not easy, So I mean, I'm thankful for my mom. She's awesome, And to this day, man, she still calls me little boy, and so whatever, man, whatever. I just let her. I feel, I feel like a little boy again when I get around my moms, But yeah, definitely the Marine Corps discipline of, getting up. This is the job. How you gonna do it? Because you can have a plan, but what the Marines taught me is that every moment is not gonna go according to plan, and so you have to be ready, okay, to adjust and move, okay. And so along with that, I studied a lot of martial arts and stuff like that, Shotokan, Shorin-ryu, Ishin-ryu karate when I was in Okinawa. I studied Kempo. I wanted to be like the next, like, great martial artist. I even tried to get into stunt work in Hollywood, but I had some inner demons that I was struggling, because I told you I wasn't the best person. I got strung out on crystal meth, and kind of just, I still have my natural teeth though. So, but and I got kind of messed up, and I kind of blew my opportunities to do that. So even though I was training super hard to achieve this one thing, I let something get a foothold in my life, and it almost destroyed me. And I tell you, man, I was like, what am I don't know what to do. I was living out on the streets. I was just crashing wherever I could find a couch. Sometimes I'd be sleeping on the beach, because it was, I was living in California at the time, and I'm like, man, I'm young, I'm 21 years old. I'm over here sleeping on cold concrete, I mean, what kind of life is that, and I said, I got to do something. So I managed to scrounge enough money together to make a phone call, and I called my mom. No questions asked. Go to Western Union. I'm gonna wire you some money for an airplane ticket. Get on a plane, come home. Man, I came home. I had earrings. I thought I was all like, I had the earrings. I had the freaking, California Jerry curl. I thought it was shit. Okay. And, my mom saw me and she was just like, who are you? You know, I can see the who are you on her face, but she reached out with her hands and hugged me. And, she saved my life, man. And then shortly after that, I met my wife and she completed the process. I've been
Nice.
married 33 years, got, 9 kids. And,
Wow.
no,
Yeah.
business. I enjoy marriage. But,
I'll never complain about 4 again.
What was that?
Said I'll never complain about 4 again.
4 is great, man. I'll be honest. No, and so yes, once I got my stuff together, and ultimately, yes, that Marine Corps stuff came back, and so I breed that into my kids. The discipline, you have to be self-disciplined to be a go-getter. So I've been clean for 34 years now, 35 years. No drugs, none of that. I do take an adult beverage every now and again, but it's like I can do it, I cannot do it, doesn't matter.
Right.
So I'm just thankful for that. So my mom played a pivotal role. My discipline in the Marine Corps, once I remembered it again, once I got out of the fog, has helped me to be able to sit down and finish what you start. Because you don't do comics, even if it's indie comics, and hardly anyone knows what it is, for 25 years, without that discipline to say, all right, this is the job, I got to get it done. Okay. Yeah. There are a lot of times when I've gone to conventions, and it's like, wow, does anyone even know who I am? And they're like, oh man, you're Cesar. I remember this book that you did. Then, there's this shop, and I'm like, oh man, thanks. That means a lot, because I miss comic conventions. Actually, it's too bad we don't have any, right now. Just, whatever. Anyway, but so it's I really miss that, and I always try to lift other people up when I go to shows and stuff like that. It's a blessing to me. I try to pay back as much as I can.
Yeah, that was a really good question from MD Dangerously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got another really good question about to pop up here, so keep it coming, guys, because it's a good conversation so far. I like it. But Elliot Rodriguez says, he asks, do you feel any responsibility as a Latino/Hispanic to put things from your culture into your comics?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question in one word. Yes. This whole comic here. I was
going to say, yeah.
Okay. They're Hispanic and Filipino. So they're Puerto Rican and Filipino. So let me show you this one. There's this one page that I did that when I gave it to the writer, he was like, dude, what the heck, man? That whole scene was incredible. It was almost like you were there. And I was like, dude, yes, I was there. So like this panel where is it? Right here?
Yeah.
The way it's laid out, I actually lived in an apartment like that.
Nice.
This scene where the kids walking down, I lived in a house with a hallway like that. My room looked like that. And so, this book is full of culture. It's, got a lot of Afrocentricity to it, a lot of Latin culture in it. This scene right here takes place in Santee Alley in East LA. So, there's a lot of Mexican flavor in that. And so, yes, I feel a huge responsibility to put my heritage into it. And when you're working for other people, it's hard to do that because you're drawing their stories.
Yep,
okay.
Right. Yep.
When you're doing your own story, okay, you can do whatever you want to with it, So I'm like, well, I don't see enough brown people in books, so let me do that. But the brown people I put in my books are good people. They're not purse puppies. Okay, they're not.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're respectable people. They have soul. They have there's something to them. They're not just like oh, you come under my wing and let me take care of you. Okay, they're not like that. They're real people dealing with real issues and real situations, and they fight their battles and they get through and they get strong. All right, and so you'll see that in the second arc. Like I said, it's gonna be batshit crazy, but yeah. So to answer your question, Elliot, absolutely, I do, and I'm very happy that I'm able to do that with Chango.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that was one thing I picked up on reading the book right off the bat was all the cultural aspects of the book, and I thought it was extremely fascinating. I actually have a question to play off of that. In the writing of that concept, did you base that on some actual research, and then you brought that into your book, or was that kind of just all fictional? You made it up on the spot because
Yeah,
it seemed
no,
legit.
no. It's everything in there is very well researched. I've lived
I would
this.
say it seemed like
I've
it was.
experienced this stuff. Okay, so this is like stuff that I'm bringing in from the culture. When I was growing up, I was familiar with Santeria. I was familiar uh, with witch doctors and things like that. Okay, the Chango is like this deity, this Afro-Caribbean deity that takes on a lot of different aspects in Africa. He's like the lightning god. In the Caribbean, it's like Chango's like a saint. But we delved into that when we got into that. The thing with the demon, possession and stuff like that. As a person of faith, I believe that does happen. Okay, I've experienced some of that myself. Okay, as a human being. I don't know how crazy you want to get on your show, but
Crazy
like,
one.
I've actually had experiences with succubi. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, and
Crazy.
with demonic entities and these sort of thing. I've seen them with my eyes. Um, and and so this kind of has allowed me to kind of take those experiences and kind of bring them to life. So I breathed them into this book. As I talked with Ben, when we were coming up with the story and how we wanted to take, because I had the idea, I knew what it was, what I wanted to do with it. It was definitely the story of a mother and her son, and dealing with this situation that happened, and so from there we just kind of fleshed it out and started talking about and I actually shared some of these experiences with him, and which was really cool because he was like, yeah, okay. So he's a fascinating guy in that he's like a very non-judgmental person and that sort of thing, but he was able to take that and then just dig into that research. And then as he was digging in, a priestess of Chango that he knew actually comes in and actually starts filling in some more of that mythology of the character, which then he weaved into the story. So yeah, so it's great that you actually picked up on that, Joe. So you're pretty keen because it is there, and even if you know about it or not, you'll sense it.
I was just gonna say because I'd never heard of any of that, but when I was reading the book, it was so the way that it read. That's why I wanted to ask the question because I felt like all right, this seems like it could be a real thing, and sometimes I think that's what's awesome about storytelling in general, whether it's TV, comics, whatever. When you can take a real aspect like that, do your research, and then fictionalize it into a story, you add some realism to the story that people can attach to, even if they don't know what the concept is. 'Cause like I said, I attached to it right off the bat because it seemed legit, and I was like, oh wow, this is a very interesting concept that you have going on, and how you have the way that Chango comes about, and the culture aspects, and the music, and like all that kind of stuff that you played throughout the entire story was very well done. It's I love it when it's well researched like that. Is my biggest point is like that's just what I'm trying to say. It's like it was researched well. It's a good story. I really dug it. How's it going, Casey? Good to see you. Thank you for the smooches to the show.
Yeah, I actually
we all appreciate that.
To read it with my wife and I. We've been watching
Raymond.
She's real big into like Sugar Skull stuff, and she knows more about that than I do. But we've been watching the new iteration of Penny Dreadful, The City of Angels, where it takes place right before like World War II, and it's about the Chicano culture and Santa Muerte, and it's the best storytelling. Opens your eyes to history, opens your eyes to struggle that I, as a white person, have no clue, no concept of anything that you would have gone through or they would have gone through. And man, I think they did a really good job with it. I'm not done with the series yet, but man, just like the tension and then weaving in the supernatural aspect of it. I love stories like that where it's, they can take a place in history, fictionalize just a little bit of it to make it, a little bit more interesting than just reading like a social studies book. But yeah, so I'm on board, man. When you do your second volume, I'll be getting both.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Because I mean, I'm into actually been meaning to get up on that, but obviously the pages got to be done. So
yeah.
Some things got to be sacrificed.
Yep.
I'm just lucky that my studio's in my little corner is in the living room with the TV.
Yeah, right. I watch stuff too, but it's like I don't watch. Like, I've gone through many Netflix series, but it's all by ear, as I'm plugged.
Oh yeah.
Guilty here too.
Big shout out to Comic Book Bob. Thanks for the shout out there and getting everybody to share that they can. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate anybody checking out the channel and all the support. Sean and I are definitely trying to grow our individual channels, and we stream this show on YouTube and Facebook. And right now our heavy traffic is through Facebook, so we're definitely trying to build up the YouTube as much as possible. So appreciate that, man.
I don't know how to do any of that. I can stream on YouTube. That's about it. I don't know how to do this stuff on Facebook or how to link it. So
yeah, I try to stream too, but whatever.
Man, that's so cool.
That's gonna be the cover to issue 2 right there.
That is so cool.
There's like it's a mirror, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's a mirror. Okay. So we got this is the crushing happening, and then there's like you can see there's like that possession type situation where Ruben after the book is like struggling with, and then that cover, that's when things start turning around, and so when I was trying to design this layout, I wanted to incorporate that sense of Ruben is no longer alone, okay, dealing with his situation with these entities, now that he's got possibly someone helping him here and joining in, so he's not struggling on his own. But it's beautiful. There were times when I was drawing this story, I'd be like, there's some scenes in there, I'm sitting and I'm drawing, I'm getting all weepy, like like there's this one scene in there where Ruben is like super scared because Chango like kind of pops out of nowhere, he's crying like a little boy, like, oh, mom comes in, she's like holding him, and she's like, oh, I love you, my son, that sort of. I'm sitting there like, gosh, man, I hope none of these tears hit this paper. I don't know how the salt's gonna react to the ink, but it's like to me when I tell stories, it's really personal to me. Like even if it's just like two robots fighting, it's like I'm fighting. You know what I'm saying? It's like whenever I do a fight scene in a comic or stuff. Like I did a fight scene in the opening sequence of Gin and Tonic, and it was like the moves he's doing is like I've done those moves because I've lived those moves, and so the way he moves and everything like that, it's like it's legit martial arts, and you try to show it as much as you can during the in the pages, right. But it's that sort of focus on those little nuances that when people are going through the story, and because we're being real, they're just reading it and they're kind of like looking at the art, but they'll always, if they like what they see, they'll always go back. Like I know I do that. Like I'll read the story, I'll go back, I'll start looking at the pictures a little bit more deeply, But if you're using these kind of like these cues in the story, where a person can relate to something, oh yeah, I've kind of seen that in real life, or I can see how that can work. This sequence of movements, how that can work. It brings that believability factor, and then what that does is, because it's believable, okay, just kind of like when you're watching the news, all right, there is truth to it, that stuff. Which I like to watch these docudramas where you find out that the husband killed the wife, and but he's innocent. Then you find out how messed up he actually is. Like you start to dig into the story and all the clues. So that's interesting, but that's what draws you in, right? So it's the same thing when you're working your story. So there's a lot to be said as a storyteller when you're laying out your story. What's the best way that I can convey this? There's the standard way, which is probably the first thing you put down. All right. But then you got to go through a few iterations of that to kind of come up with, what actually works the best.
Yeah.
When I did Gods and Soldiers, okay, the storytelling was okay. All right. It told the story. All right. But I showed you that double page spread. Okay. And this is the original double page spread, right?
Nice.
But it went from this to this, which I think this works. It works better. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So you can't be afraid as a storyteller, and I'm not talking about just as an artist. I'm just kind of talking about as a storyteller, which this is what we're doing when we're doing comics. We're telling stories. There's nothing wrong with going back and reworking something, man. Yeah. Even if you put time, like I still have the original double page spread for that, and I put a lot of time into that.
Yeah.
But when I remastered it, as I'm remastering it, and I look at that page, I was like, that is a good page, but can I tell it better? Yes, I can. Yeah. So you come up with something different, and you work it in, and it takes more time to do it. But I think that this product is probably going to end up looking better, because I know what I did with the initial thing, and in the remastering, I can kind of say, all right, that worked good. People liked it, but how can I make it better? And then hopefully that will be the thing that kind of draws people into that book. Okay.
Yeah.
What's going on, Atomic? Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. My first book, we wound up having it was back in 95, 96, I think. And we had a deal with Capital, and then Capital got bought out by Diamond, and then Diamond said no. So then we I redrew the whole book, and then we added stuff to it to make it, because it was part of an anthology. And then the other people that were part of that left. So then we were just like, well, let's just make this our book, the whole thing, and resubmit it. So everything that I had drawn, I redrew. And actually, probably 8 years later, we were going to totally redo it again, but kind of had a little parting of ways of me and the writer. But I'm with you. I even do it when there's not a lot of time in between, like you're doing the remaster. I'll draw complete pages, they're almost done, and then I'll just redo them, just because something just doesn't sit right with me.
Right.
Like the page I sent you, Joe, and you were like, it looks fine to me.
Yeah, but Joe's awesome. But but really, that layout stage is that's where the magic happens. The finished pencils, that's kind of that's just dressing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was looking at some pictures today of framing, okay, and it was just wood frame of a stairwell, okay? And I looked at it and I said, that is beautiful. And it was nothing but 2x4s all over the place. But I can see, because the structure was so well done, all right, I could see what it was going to look like finished.
Yep.
Okay. And so when you take your time doing your layouts, all right, it actually does save you time ultimately when you actually get down to penciling the pages. And so, you know, that's something that I learned over 25 years. Okay. I mean, I used to just like see the story, draw the page from beginning to end. All right. And then I would go to the next page from beginning to end. But what happens? We all experience it, right? We get interrupted. This happens, that happens, kids, the this, the that. Okay. Like stuff happens. All right. And so if you take the time to just kind of lay the whole thing out, all right, you'll at least have an idea of where everything is going. So let me see. I think I have some layouts here. Yeah. So here's some layouts. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
This whole book is basically laid out. Okay. I know what I want to do. I kind of, you know, have an idea of, you know, how the story is going to flow. All right. And then from this point, okay, I got some more stuff in the bag. All right.
Nice.
First issue of Gin and Todd is going to be 39 pages. All right. Revealed here on the Art and Stuff show. So when you have something like this, okay, you can just kind of go through it all in one shot, and then you sit back and you look at it and you're like, okay, I like that here. I can make this adjustment here, and which I've done on this page. Out of the 6 panels here on this page, I've probably redone 4 of the pages. Okay, and that's fine. Okay. But it's having it all laid out in front of you that helps you to get your, number one, get your story flow right. All right. Then number 2, it actually makes it a lot easier to draw your story a lot quicker. All right. Because, you know, you've got your placements, this sort of thing. And then the only thing you're really adjusting is maybe the shape of the panels that you're using. If you want to do open panels, closed panels, if you want to do, you know, maybe like like maybe if there's like a punching scene, maybe you want to make that like a big, you know, kind of image on the page and then draw the panels around it and that sort of thing. But the flow is what's important there of the story. And if you got that going on, the drawing and then the inking, it's just kind of like, you know, putting the drywall up and that sort of thing. You know, it's
not the easy work, but it kind of is. Like the hard work is putting in the thought and of how the layout and how you're going to guide the eye. And also, you know, like you were saying, you were wanting, you like drawing team books. Well, yeah, you always have to remember, where are those people at in that space? Who's talking to who at what time? Are they going to be in the same position when you go from one person to the next? I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into the layout.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just scribbles. To me, that's the real work is the layout stage.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of drawing comics is laying it out and watching it come together, and then, you know, going through and rendering it and stuff is fun because that's just the finishing aspect of it, and you get to see it actually completed. But when you're going from script to a blank page, depending on who you're working with, you know, like with me and my writer, we have a very Marvel method style of writing. You know, him and I went through, we plotted the entire issue. So, I mean, it's coming from my story, so I know what I want to do anyway. But when he writes the script, it's just the basic, for his storytelling wise, it's basically what's going on in that page. And then he highlights in bold the main focus of the page. So that allows me as the artist to go through and set up the page panel-wise, as many or as little as I want, to make sure that the flow is there. And then setting that up, laying that out, to me, is the funnest part. And just watching it all come together, seeing how panels work and how you play off, how you lead the eyes through the page and all that stuff. And that is probably the most frustrating but the most fun part of drawing drawing the comic book.
Absolutely,
no doubt.
Absolutely. You know, and hey, listen, some panels look better than others. Some things drawn in certain panels look better than others.
Right.
And it's like, but then you go back and that's why you edit. You have someone take a look at your pencils before you hit the ink on them and stuff like that. But it's also really important, because as artists that are doing independent comics, we don't have like editorial staff, that and art directing. We kind of like have to do this ourselves, right, Joe? So and Mike, that you have to self-edit, and don't think that you're so good that you don't need to like listen, to someone say something. Like, I've posted some things on some of the pages, some panels and stuff like that on how to draw comics. Clayton with Barton's. I had a lot of people say, "Oh man, I like the way that page looks and that panel. Everything looks freaking awesome and stuff like that." Which is nice, okay, because it's good for your ego. Makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, right? but what I really appreciated is like those 2 or 3 people that said, "Hey man, I was kind of looking at this, and man, that didn't quite look right. What if you moved this, this person over here, and oh man, I was looking at that, and that one eye just something not right about it, looks a little bit off." And then you go back and you look at it and you're like, "Oh man, they're right. Yeah, that eye is off." So even though the page was completely super tight penciled, you got to go back and you got to take your white eraser and get all in here, and just redraw. You redraw that eye, man, and you re-render it. That's what you do. You make it try to look good. And like I said, there are people that can draw better than me, but I pride myself really on telling the story. And if being at that as it may, I want to tell a good story. I also want to make sure that my art is not distracting, all right, you from the enjoyment of telling the story. Because if you're reading a comic and every other page there's something wonky, you're like, "Man, that's wonky, man. That looks weird. Oh man, wow, that's wonky." It's like that's what you're doing the whole time. So you're not even getting into a flow of the story, okay? So you got to care about that. You can't just throw crap out there. You want to do to the best of your ability. You want to do the art right. You want to pencil it right. You want to ink it right. And if you're not, listen, if you want to crowdfund something and you're a decent penciler but you can't ink well, dude, get yourself an inker, man. I have seen some projects that look so interesting on Indiegogo and on Kickstarter and stuff like that, and that like you see some of the pencils, like, oh man, that looks cool, and then you get the book and it was inked by someone that you're like, what did they do? Like, I cut my teeth inking. I can honestly say if someone hands me something, I will make it look really good. Okay.
Right.
That's good to know.
I'm a good I know how to ink. Okay. I may not be the best artist, but man, I can sling some ink. Okay. So to me, when I see inking that is not quite there, man, it bugs the heck out of me. Because that artist spent 12 hours on that page, and you didn't spend at least that amount of time inking, and you can tell when you look at it, and that is distracting. So if you're not a good inker, man, don't ink your own stuff. Find someone that can do it well, because it's gonna just take away from the final look of the product, man. So it's that's just a little pointer for you, for us, you whoever's out there putting out their own crowdfunding.
That's a great point, because the team you put together, you definitely want to make sure is going to improve the book, not pull it back. And there's a lot of people out there that can ink, but aren't necessarily inkers yet, you know, because there's a real technique to it, and there's some great tracers out there, if that makes sense. There's some people that can do tight pencils by a fantastic artist that knows what he's doing when he's drawing, and then the ink is going to look great because if you just copy everything that artist does, it looks pretty good. But that's not really inking. You know, that's not improving. That's not line weights. That's not, you know, the light sources and stuff. And with my book, I'm very confident in my own inking, but I knew if I wanted to achieve another level of professionalism, I wanted to work with the best that I could get on my book, making my art better. You know, so that's why I went after the inker. I went after the colors I went after, instead of just leaving it all on my shoulders, because I want to make sure that the product is something that is very appealing to the eye. You know, even though I could do it if I wanted to, but I would rather have a very talented inker ink over my line work and make it even better than what I could just by myself. So that's a great point. It's great advice out there for anybody.
Man, there's no shame in your game, man. You got to know where you're strong, okay, where your strong suit is, and you got to know where your weakness is. I think that just makes you a good person, okay? It doesn't matter what sex you are, what preference you are, who you are. None of that matters, okay? Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, okay? And you got to be able to play on that stuff. And sometimes you need to bring someone in to help you along that has a skill set that is not yours. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? So you do it. Listen, can I computer color? Yes. I know how to computer color. I can do it, all right? I can paint. I know how to do watercolor. I can do all that stuff, all right? Can I do it to a point where I feel someone will pay me a comic that's done that way, colored by me? Nah. A pinup, yeah, and a watercolor image, which I've done some watercolor paintings for people, and you know they like them, you know, and I enjoy doing watercolor, but that's different than working on a publication, you know, where you're gonna usually have hundreds of thousands of people looking at it.
Yeah,
you don't want to mess around with that, you know.
We've got so we've just gone over the hour mark by about 12 minutes, but MD Dangerously has another really good question I want to ask. So this will be the last question of the stream, but I think it's a really good question because I feel like it's something that a lot of artists, young artists, even veteran artists probably struggle with at a certain time or another. And he says, where or when do you realize you've reached the point of diminishing returns and decide, okay, this is done? I'm going to direct that to you first, Cesar, because that's why we have you on. So if you want to tackle that quick, then we'll add in our thought process too. But I'm pretty sure we'll probably have a similar answer.
Yeah, I'm sure we will too. You know, it's really different for every project that you work on. To be honest with you, you know, I think that the part where I was talking about, I'm just going to go back to the layouts. All right, if you've got that kind of figured out well, when you actually go into start doing the illustration and that sort of thing, and you start rendering, okay, you've got to, as you're drawing this, as you're putting the pencil lines down, you need to say to yourself, all right, how much time am I going to put into this to get it to where I like it? And then if I'm inking my own work, do I want to put that same amount of time that I just put in penciling into inking this? Because if it takes you 4 hours to draw a panel, do you want to then go back in and spend another 4 hours drawing it again, but now with ink? No, that's 8 hours on one panel. That's a diminishing return at that point, right? Because in that 8 hours, you know, you could have had 3 or 4 other panels done on that page, or you could have done, you know, a full page splash or something. Okay, and so you've basically, for me, it's getting the drawing to the point where I can say, all right, is it telling the story that I want to tell? Yes. Okay, good. Let's move on to the next thing, because I think as artists, and I'm guilty of this myself, to me, every piece of art is very precious to me, and so I never want to let it go, because I know it's going to be out there, and I want it to be the very best that it can possibly be. Okay. When you're storytelling comics, that is not a good thing. It's actually a negative. Okay, it's not what you want. You're just trying to tell the story. Okay, tell it well, draw it well, but you're not like what Rob Willis does on his pinups. I've seen some of his sequential art. He's doing the same thing on his sequential pages. That's a lot of work. Okay, it really is. It looks great. Okay, but if your plan is to put out 2 to 3 indie books, 4 indie books a year, you can't draw like Rob Willis. Now, Rob Willis gets paid well because he draws like Rob Willis, but it's the pinup stuff, okay? Not the comic stuff that he's getting paid well on, okay? So, you need to decide to yourself, do I want to tell stories, or do I want to just focus on doing the very best art in one book and put one thing out of you in a book, which they do in Europe. They're called albums. Okay, so you have artists. They'll spend a whole year working on a book. The illustrated thing is probably like 60 pages or whatever it is, but it's beautifully illustrated, drawn, the whole 9 yards. It looks great, but they put one thing out a year. If you want to do more than that, okay, then you've got to say, all right, I can't put that time into this because I want to just tell the stories. All right. I mean, I see someone saying they disagree, and that's fine. This is just my personal opinion on this. That you really want to focus on, and I respect Lackham for saying that, which that's fine. But it's just my opinion. That's all.
Right. Yeah, Mike. What would your take on that question be?
I think that sequential art is deadline driven more often than not. So you do have to have an understanding of when you can just let it go. You have to do your best. You have to do I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but you have to do competent work in a time frame. So you can labor over something forever, but no one's ever going to see it because you're going to be laboring over it forever and ever. You need to understand your own abilities. You need to understand what is competent in the amount of time that you have to draw it, and will it look good that way. Lots of us have spent, decades refining how we do work. We were talking about how, you guys were talking about pencilers and inkers, and my book, volume 1, there's 4 inkers on it, including myself. Volume 2, it's completely me. I decided that I wanted the look to be completely my vision artistically. And I am by no means the best inker in the world, but I think I am the best for how I draw, because right now I do real quick layouts, and then I go in with blue lead, and I kind of do like the Ethan thing where I just kind of block out my characters, and if there's something that like a face, I'll go in with more detail, but then I just go in straight to ink. And that gets me in and out of the page, and the stuff looks, to me, it's good. It's the best that I can do at my skill level. And I think that based on like people's responses to some of the stuff that I've shown and to commission work, I think I'm on the right path. So it's knowing yourself and knowing, you just can't keep hacking away at the slab of marble, trying to get the statue of David out of it. You got to know when to stop and then move on, detach. But that's just my view on it.
I would say I agree with both of you guys is on a lot of that, and I would say it's two different trains of thought. If you're working on your own personal project and you don't have an actual, maybe you have a deadline, but it's just something you're working on, and you know that you're going to put your all into a book because this is going to be the first thing somebody sees, and you have the time to put into it, then you might be able to do what Robert Willis does and put all that detail into a pinup and put all the detail into a comic book. And then the first comic book comes out whenever it comes out, whether you're crowdfunding, and that's what you get. And then, then you move on. If you're working for any kind of, like Mike was saying, any kind of deadline, whether it's an independent deadline or you're working for, one of the big companies, that's when you really have to decide what you want to put into the book to be on time. Because any artist is going to tell you that that's how they make the money. Get the story in and move on, because you're going to improve the more and more you draw, and you're not going to have your best page every single page. And that was one thing as a young artist, and even as a veteran artist, if that's what you want to call me, I've had to learn is when do you hit the stop button on the page? Because I could fill up the entire page with all the tiniest little minute detail that when it comes down to it is going to be lost. Once it shrinks down to the comic book size and the colors go on it, there's going to be things that disappear. And all that time I spent on it because my personal eye was making it look beautiful is going to ultimately get lost. So you can pull back on some of the detail when you're doing sequential pages. You make sure that the story's there, that the art is good, and you're giving the reader enough information to take everything in. Another thing I learned was that some negative space is all right to have. You do it because you can have too busy of a panel, you can have too busy of a page that sometimes throws the reader off a little bit when they're reading it. Instead of having a more polished, put together that just helps the reader go along, because that's just storytelling. You want to have all the detail you want into a cover, into a pinup, and really showcase your skill and detail. That's the time to do it. Storytelling, make it to your art skill, your art level. And there's some artists out there that can just detail the fuck out of things.
Yep.
They just have that skill. They have that skill. They have that speed. They have the knowledge, and they can just put it down. They can go. More power to artists like that. And if you can be that, great. But don't hold yourself up to that standard, and cut yourself off at a certain page. When you look at that page, and you're like, is that information that is matching the script and telling the story? Is that all to say that I need? And if it is, move on, because otherwise you're going to be holding yourself back, because you're going to constantly spend weeks or months working on one page to make it perfect. So especially if it's going to an inker and you're working with a competent inker, know that inker is going to pull stuff together for you. You don't have to have the tightest pencils in the world, because that inker is going to know how to render out of this shadow or put this line weight on whatever, so you can have trust in your team that you put together is another thing if you're working with other competent people. So I think that's kind of what LA was bringing up. Not necessarily, in LA, he's an accomplished artist and storyteller himself. So I mean, this is the thing, all of us have probably slightly different ways we look at things, but
not everything works for everybody.
Right. And to a younger artist or somebody that's just trying to learn how to move on, there is that point where you have to say, this is good enough, and move on. And sometimes it takes somebody else to say it. Like I work with a writer, and even though I have full control of my art, I like to show him my page and what I'm doing. And there are some times when he's like, dude, that looks awesome. He's like, but it's time to be done. Because I'll be like, oh, no, dude, but I want to go in, like, you see those bricks there? I want to bring those bricks out a little bit more, and I want to put some this, and I want to do all this. And he'll just be like, dude, he's like, let your inker have fun with that. He's like, let's move on to page 2. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right. Like I'll give this up, to the guy that I trust finishing off for me. So
yeah, I definitely like the point that you made where you said that every page you do, you're gonna get better, which is true. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, you definitely want to do the best you can on every page, but not every page is going to be a home run. Okay. It's just the way it is. All right. So, but the next time you get to draw something that is similar to that, you've already kind of worked a bunch of stuff out when you previously drew that thing. So if you're drawing enough, when you get to draw that again, you'll be able to draw it better. It'll look more you'll even be able to render more into it, because you've picked up speed and stuff like that. You know, like a guy like that guy, I've seen his pencils. I've inked some of his pencils. All right,
Yeah.
and they're ridiculous. The freaking guy is a phenomenal artist. You know, and he does this, you know, basically on a 5 to 6 week schedule. He's able to put out like these 20 pages of masterpiece sequential art, you know, but he'll also say, you know, I don't like that page, but the next time I get to do this, you know, I'm gonna do it, you know. So that's the thing, like you said, you know, every page you draw, you're actually improving. That's why you got to put the mileage in. You know, it's all about mileage when you do it. So,
yeah. Not every page is going to be Gene Ha, but then not every page should be like Ramita Jr. So it's like speed versus detail. You kind of have to meet in the middle. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the best storyteller is, well, back in the day was Ramita Jr.
Oh.
Uh-oh. We lost him.
Lost him. I'm sure he'll bounce back here. Must have hit the wrong button. But no, I mean that's
he was tired of talking to us.
He's like, that's it. I'm out of here. Oh, there he is.
Wow, that was, I don't know what happened.
No, I mean that's a great question. It is a really good question because I think that is something that a lot of people struggle with, and if you can get to the point where you're comfortable moving on, then I think that you put yourself in a really good position to produce pages. You know, because that's, like I said, that's something I have to learn. That's something I'm still learning every once in a while. You know, like, because I'm a detailed guy. I grew up in the 90s, you know, looking at David Finch and Stephen Platt and Dale Keown and Jim Lee and all these guys that just poured detail into their pages, and it was beautiful, and I loved looking at it. But that you don't have to do that. You know, there's a point where you can say, like, do I need to put this extra little line here? Or do I need to do this? Or do I need to do that? And if the answer is no, then move on to the next page. You know, hand it off to your inker. Let him do that. You know, it's
for the colors to work.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. Is, you know, if you're working with a team and you're not doing the entire book yourself, the guys that are taking over after you don't want to just trace what you're chasing and put down what you've left them. You want to leave them room to put their touch on there. Because it really is a collaboration.
Yeah, it is collaboration.
You know, like with Adele Socrona, I'm working with him on inks. He's inking my book, and he and I have sat down, and I was like, "How much room would you like me to leave you? Do you like tight pencils? Do you like looser pencils? You know?" And you know, he likes a little bit looser because it allows him to go in and have some fun, and he's not just tracing my tight lines. He can put his touch onto it. He can bring my art out, make it better. He can improve upon it. But he can have fun, and he can have his mark left on it. Same thing with Andrew Dahlhaus. You know, let your colorists have fun sometimes with not every not every blank space on a page needs to be completely filled up, because a colorist can have some fun doing what they do if you allow them some room. You know, so keep that in mind as well. You bring a team in for a reason. You have people that you work with for a reason. Let them have some fun.
Yeah. That's true. And so, like, the colorist that I had work on Chang, his name is Jason Smith. And when I approached him, because I was thinking about the look of the book, I said, well, what do I want to do with this? It's horror kind of book, you know. I'm a big Mike Mignola fan. I really like his style, and what I like is, you know, the high contrast, you know, blacks and negative space and stuff like that. And so I set about to kind of study that style. And said, well, I want to use that style. It's not his style per se, but kind of like the voice of what he does. And I brought it into this book, you know, on some of the. So you'll see there's hardly any rendering at all, much like his own stuff, you know. But when I said, well, I know I'm going to be inking this myself, and it's basically, you know, going to be in that style, but I got to have something that kind of is going to be able to pop that out. So Jason, I say, hey, do you like Dave? Yeah, I love that guy. I said, well, here, I have got this thing. Can you color this? And he colored it, and I was like, holy crap, dude, that's it. That's exactly the look that I'm looking for. And so there's pages on here where he does like these subtle gradients in the coloring. where it makes my art look so much better than it is, But to your point, Joe, he had that freedom to kind of add his own flow into it, which worked well to make, he did make my stuff look even better. But that's what you want when you're collaborating with people, whether it's an inker or whether it's inker and a colorist, and even a letter. Like the letter I had on, his name is Justin Birch. The guy's a freaking awesome guy. Available for work if anyone's interested. So I'm sure he'll appreciate that plug. But matter of fact, I sent Jimmy Reyes a sample of some of the pages, and he saw the lettering. He said, "Dude, can I contact that guy? I want to use him. He's a good inker." So now he's using him on his Dragon Rage project that he's putting out. But oh, you're a winner. Nice.
No, he had me on his stream, and me and Jimmy go way back. And
nice.
So he's like, "I'll send you a copy." I was like, "All right."
Nice.
That's awesome,
take a free book.
Yeah,
right.
But to your point, you definitely want to work with good people that make you look good, because even though it's your thing, that complete collaboration, like you said, that's the important part, to put the best package together.
Yep.
We lost Mike.
Yep. Which I know he's got some stuff going on at the house right now, so I'm actually surprised it's been as quiet and he hasn't been as busy as he has up to this point. Great question. Great questions, guys. This show. Hey, back. Right. This is it's been good. This hour and a half just flew by. I mean, I could keep on rolling here, but we tend to see that people might start dropping off after about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I mean, it's fascinating to me, so I can keep on talking about it. But we'll wrap this show up because I know everyone's got to do stuff. It's Friday night. There's art to be drawn. There's family to hang out with. Weird, crazy stuff to do in your personal life that you don't want anybody to know or talk about. So we're gonna let people get to that. But before we get out of here, Cesar, Guapo Comics, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, what projects to look out for, what are you working on right now? Plug the hell out of everything you need to plug before we go.
Okay, awesome. So start with this. Obviously, I'm going to start fulfilling this book, Chango. Like I said, I got the printed copies in, and I got the boxes. I don't know if you can see that over there.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And then I got my mailers, my Gemini mailers right here. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so those will be getting ready to be shipped out. So that's Chango. And then I'm working on a remastering of Gods and Soldiers. Okay. I actually have let me see if I can. You mind if I pull up the cover for the remaster?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. All right. Let me just go in here real quick. And I'll have to share my screen. All right, so man, we're keeping you up, Joe. Sorry about that.
Anybody who watches the show, that I yawn all the time because it's
all right. So I'll share my screen here. We'll share that one. Share.
Nope. Okay, there we go.
Okay, I think you have to click. Yeah, so that's the remastered cover.
Nice.
So I still have to put the tab now. Someone from the group, group there, took upon themselves to redesign the trade dress, and I actually saw one there that was kind of nice. I liked it, so I need to contact him and see if we can work it into it here. So as you can see, there's a Mayan influence in the back and stuff. So
yeah, I like that.
So that's the next thing that I'm working on. Pages for here's the inked version.
Oh, nice.
Here,
Oh, nice.
Of this.
That's looking good. That's looking nice.
Yeah, so I'm having some fun with this. On this one here, I'm going with the more, more rendery type of
Yeah, I
look.
can tell. Yep.
So, you know, I'm putting a lot of effort into the art, and you know, I'm moving along pretty quickly on it. Like I said, I've gotten 8 pages done in like about 3 weeks or so. And
That's
so
pretty good,
now
man.
I'm just working on getting these inks polished up. I plan on running a I'm going to be doing the email list starting up for this. And then after I get this project done, next thing is going to be the gin and tonic, stuff. Let me see if I can open up any pages from that. I'm sorry if I'm not being quicker with this. I know you.
Oh, you're fine.
You're fine. Well.
Hakim says stellar work. Yeah, those ink pages look great, man. That's come a long
Thanks a
way.
lot, man. I appreciate it.
Super nice.
Let me see if I can. I'll just open up a few of the pages here, a couple. All right, just open those up. So this is these are just some of the pages from Gin and Tonic that I'm working on. This is the spy martial arts type story I'm doing. This is a little battle sequence.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, thanks. So, oh gosh, my computer's working slow. Whenever I stream and have my computer running,
it
lags a lot.
I love the use of blacks that you got going on with these pages and this story right now. Then
yeah, thanks a lot. That's really, you know, I used to be afraid of putting ink down on paper. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Like putting a lot of like dark shadows, and you know, it's almost like, oh no, you gotta you know, do space for the rendering, but you know, rendering is not always needed. You know, you got to be able to not be afraid to, you know, go do some dark areas like that. Let everything blend. Anyway, so then this is the so I'll be putting this project out after I do the Gods and Soldier project. So, you know, I guess I'm going to be pretty busy. I really would like to have an inker come in, and you know, for you people that are out there posting stuff on Twitter and Instagram, you know, my eye is open, okay, you know, and I'm looking to see who's got the stuff that can make my stuff look better, you know. So definitely, you know, always be posting art, man. So anyway, just getting back to this, so you can see these projects I'm putting out, and the way to kind of stay up with what I'm doing is follow me on Twitter. All right, you can definitely go there on Twitter at Cesar Feliciano. I haven't changed it to El Guapo Comics or anything. Probably should, but whatever. You can follow me at Cesar Feliciano on Twitter. You can also go to Instagram at The Art of Cesar Feliciano. I post art and, you know, stuff, process stuff all the time on Twitter and Instagram. I even use TikTok a little bit, but you know, I kind of got away from that. It was getting a little bit too much. They're not really too art friendly unless, you know, you're shaking your booty and, you know, like doing stuff like that. You're not getting any flow.
See that from me.
Yeah. And I have a Facebook page, The Art of Cesar Feliciano, that you can go on. Oh yeah, and please, I do have a YouTube channel. I've got 113 subscribers. I like to get more than that, but I do post stuff that I'm working on. I do live streams where I'm drawing, and sometimes I'll do like request art, you know, where I'm working on stuff anyway. I have you come in, you can request something. I'll do like a quick drawing, you know, whatever. Nice. So that's where you can find me at YouTube at El Guapo Comics. The only one I actually have there that's out Guapo Comics is on YouTube.
There you go.
But that's what you can find. Twitter at Cesar Feliciano, Instagram at The Art of Cesar Feliciano, and on YouTube at Guapo Comics.
Just subscribe.
Right.
Just subscribe. And subscribe to Art and Stuff. Please, whatever you do. It's a good show. They got 16 episodes. Mike, we're going to miss you, but I know you'll be back. All right. Hopefully, Joe will have me back when I get one of my next projects done. All right. We'll talk a little bit more. But I appreciate you having me on. It was a good time, an hour and 45 minutes almost. So,
I like meeting people and new art, and it's for me. This has been a blast. Just meeting new people and seeing their work and getting invested in new people. I mean, that it shows like this that bring people like you or like TJ from a couple weeks ago. I never knew. I mean, I heard his name, but I didn't know anything about his book. And I went out and I bought his book, and they sent it right away. So I mean, I love shows like this because it gives people an opportunity to meet people that they would have never met probably before. Every outlet helps, every platform helps. And man, like I said, I can't wait till you do your second Kickstarter or Indiegogo for your book that you're
for Chongo,
because
I will be probably not number one first pledger, but I'll be damn close.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Appreciate that. And thanks a lot, guys, for having me on the show and let me be long-winded as much as you did. So I really appreciate what you're doing here. I mean, I really hope that your channel just continues to blow up. You do a good job, and you have a lot of interest on and stuff. So and definitely keep us updated on both of your books that you're putting out. I definitely got to check out U.S. Assassin. So I'll be checking out that campaign. So and definitely looking forward to your book there, Joe. And listen, I'm going to throw this out here. If there's a pinup or something like that, it's like, hey, let me give that to somebody. I wonder if they would do a good job inking it, Put it my way, man. I promise I'll do my best job on it.
All right. I was saying, we definitely, between me and Sean and Mike, I know we're going to try to bring in people that we can work with for pinups and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of making it all work within the printability of the book. But definitely would love to. I think that would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, I was holding in for a second.
He said he was going to do it anyway.
I'm going to miss that. I am going to miss that.
I know, man. I know you will. So again, this is Mike's last show with us. So applaud you, brother, for coming in and helping us out. It's been a blast having you on this last 6 weeks or however long it's been you've been with us, and couldn't have done it without you, man. But I definitely appreciate it.
Coming too, so.
And for everybody that knows or that wants to know, Sean's going to be back next Friday. We have Ryan Kincaid on. We have a really fun show with him, and we should be doing our Fluffer and Stuff show, although not to the extent it was before, where Sean's going to come on, just talk to everybody, give his love, and just kind of update on everything that's been going on with him over the last little bit. So we look forward to that. We look forward to talking to Sean. And for anybody who wants to know, the Fluffers and Stuff show is usually on Wednesdays. And that's where we get you ready we talk about Friday's show, but that's where we also, Sean and I, take the time out to talk about our own personal projects and books that we're working on. So that's mainly where we'll talk about that kind of stuff. So check that out when we get that up and running again. But Cesar, thank you for coming on, man. This was a blast.
Yeah.
I had a pleasure talking to you.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Good night, Reggie. Thank you for checking out the show. Thank you, everybody that asked questions and tuned in and shared. Shout out to Comic Book Bob for giving us a shout out for extra sharing and stuff like that. Check us all out. We all have YouTube channels. Sean and I, we share this show on our YouTube channel. We stream it from both channels. So you can find my channel, Joe M. Sonntag, and his is Sean Ahrendt. You can find me on all the social media sites. Just look up Joe Sonntag, look up Joe M. Sonntag. You're going to find me somewhere. So just type that in. Mike, did you plug yourself yet? Before I want to make sure we do before we get out of here.
Mike McMahon 74 on Twitter. U.S. Assassin fan page on Facebook, and U.S. Assassin Second Chance campaign is on Indiegogo right now. I think we got, let's see.
Get on that one.
77 copies are gone out of 300, and once those are gone, they are gone. There's also awesome add-ons. There's original art, pages from the book, splash pages, double page spreads. There's also an add-on for Sea Dog and Codename Killswitch, which is Mark's other book that he did with Clint Nowinski. You can add that on. But like as soon as that's done, we're already getting ready for Volume 2 campaign to launch. So as soon as we can get those 300 sold, faster you guys will get Volume 2 in your hands. So,
and for everybody who's a fan of the show, we are ending the month out with a bang with Ryan Kincaid, and August is going to be fucking awesome. So tune in because we got some return guests by popular demand. It'll be fun to announce them, and then we got some new guys coming on. August is going to be a blast. September's looking good. So nothing but going full force ahead with this show, and thank you for all the support. We love you all out there. Be good to each other. Love one another. Spread love, not hate. Touch each other in places. Have good times. So until then, everybody stay safe. I love you. We'll talk to you later.
See you.
Wait.